Hello, hello. John here. Welcome to a new reaction video on this channel. Okay, so here we have knowledge. Back to the formation of the Roman Empire series. I highly suggest to check out my previous reaction of the first episode of the ascension of Augustus, the ascension of Octavianus as emperor, and the formation of the empire. I suggest check out the video, and also I'm going to leave the video of this video that we're gonna watch into the description box and to the pinned comment, so go check it out as well. And yeah, I think that's all right. Anyways, I hope you guys will like it. Don't forget to support the original creator, of course. Noleja is a great guy, has just very quality make. He makes very quality videos. So yeah. Anyways, so let's do this. Let's put this in 1080p and have the volume like at half or something. I'm gonna fix it. Okay, so let's do this.
The Reluctant Emperor.
Okay, ancient site. Hold the freak on. I want to remember. So basically, let's go open a tab. Okay, there we go. We have it here. Okay, so Emperor Constantine V. Okay, I'm really interested about Constantine V because I watched a terrible ranking of worst Roman emperors, and he was on the list. Anyways, I wanna check him out later. But I plan to, like, I don't know, choose a video, whatever video, but I want to keep this open so I remember. After this video, I'm going to make a video about this channel specifically. So yeah, let's go.
The gloomiest man in Rome. The heir who didn't want to be.
Yeah, as we know, last time basically Tiberius and another woman was forced to be married, I guess, or something. And he was chosen as successor upon Octavianus's death.
His name was Tiberius, and he was the second emperor of Rome.
Yep, Tiberius, and you have to realize that the next emperor named Tiberius came literally like more than 500 years later, more than 500, like around the 570s, Tiberius the second Constantine, the successor of Justin II, who was a nephew of Justinian, basically. And Tiberius the second successor was Maurice, basically. So yeah, I don't know, like I know a lot about Tiberius II and a bit of Tiberius III, but I don't know as much about Tiberius, the first Tiberius, So I'm really
On
excited.
November 16th, 42 BC, young Tiberius was born to Livia Drusilla and Tiberius Claudius Nero.
Okay.
The elder Tiberius was an ally to the deceased Julius.
By the way, I don't think you guys can see here, but in the right up corner it says the the current year, so it's 42 BC right now.
Caesar.
I mean, I guess I could fix it like right now. Okay, I think now you guys can see this. I'm pretty sure.
And thus
So,
to
yeah.
Mark Antony in the civil wars after the dictator's
Wait.
Caesar, and thus to Mark Antony in the civil wars after the dictator's assassination.
Oh, so Tiberius was an ally of Marcus Antonius. Interesting.
As a consequence of his parents' loyalties, the first years of the infant Tiberius's life were spent on the run. By the child's fourth birthday, however,
Fourth birthday, that's crazy.
the family was able to return to Rome, having been granted amnesty. Whether this kind gesture by Augustus had wooed Livia, or Augustus himself managed to do so, it wouldn't take long for the first emperor of Rome to pursue his new love interest. Both Livia and Augustus's current wife were pregnant with their respective husbands' children. But this was no matter to the emperor. Divorcing his own wife, Augustus pushed the elder Tiberius to do the same, and Livia would thus be re-wed to the ruler of Rome.
What? I didn't know about this? Oh my gosh. This poor guy and that poor woman. Oh my god. Oh. Okay, this is the first time I'm hearing it. Okay, it's really fascinating. I mean, it catches your interest, to the least, at least,
It is believed that Livia's first child was left to stay with his namesake, And when Drusus, her second child by Tiberius, was born, he too went to live with his father. When the older Tiberius passed away shortly after, the boys returned to their mother, where they would continue to be raised alongside Julia, Augustus's daughter, and Marcellus, the emperor's nephew. All of these children, minus Julia, were treated as potential heirs to Augustus.
Yeah, but they will die. Drusus will die. Marcellus will die as well. I think it was pronounced Marcellus.
To claim one clear successor. This meant that Tiberius was taught well, socialized, and given ample opportunities. But he was still known to have been a rather reclusive child.
Why is that?
He was not an insecure boy, but rather shy and sometimes depressive. His speech pattern was also often painfully slow, a fact that only added to his off-putting manner. He wasn't what one would expect for the heir to an empire such as Rome, but nevertheless, he remained an option to Augustus.
Interesting.
In 27 BC, a now teenage Tiberius, alongside Marcellus, accompanied the emperor on an educational trip to Gaul before returning to Rome, where Tiberius would soon be wed to the daughter of the renowned Marcus Agrippa, Vipsania Agrippina.
Marcus Agrippa. So the daughter was named Vipsania Agrippina. Okay. I don't know where the name Vipsania comes from.
Though this union was surely one between trusted allies of Augustus, it wasn't only a political marriage. Tiberius and Vipsania were truly in love, a rare occurrence for a Roman noble.
That's good, that's good.
One success seemed to lead to another for the young man as well, as he'd now been granted the position of quaestor, and by the age of 22, would be at the start of a budding military career.
That's actually pretty impressive. To be a quaestor at that age was really impressive, honestly. If you don't know what a quaestor is, do some research. I'm not telling you.
After spending time in the east, Tiberius would be chosen as praetor and sent over west to join additional campaigns, now alongside his brother. It's said that at this time, Tiberius was well liked by his men, respected by his stepfather, and quite a happy man. He had a good political career, now serving as consul, a loving wife and newborn son, and a brother he loved dearly.
So his life was going smoothly. Okay.
But there is a reason that Tiberius would become known as one of the saddest men in all of Rome. And that reason was about to rear its ugly head for the
I don't know how Drusus and the others died, so I don't know.
time. In 12 BC, Marcus Agrippa, friend and son-in-law to Augustus and father-in-law to Tiberius, died. This left the emperor's promiscuous daughter, Julia, widowed. Accordingly, Augustus hoped to quickly find a suitable husband for his daughter to tie her down and keep his personal politics steady. For this, he looked to Tiberius, a man who just may be his chosen heir, and whom Julia had previously attempted to seduce while her dead husband was still living.
What the heck?
Horrified by this idea, the thought of divorcing his again pregnant wife, whom he adored so deeply, was inconceivable. And yet, Augustus was the one making the request. Generally, Augustus got what Augustus wanted.
Yep. I mean, at that point, Octavianus was so powerful. If you denied him, then you'd be lucky to be dead. Honestly, you'd be lucky. You would want to be dead, because honestly, at that time, it was very dangerous to live in the Roman Empire. At that time specifically, even though it was during the Pax Romana, the beginning of the Pax Romana.
After all, Tiberius's own father had divorced his mother for such a reason.
Indeed.
And so, Tiberius, though heartbroken as he was, left Vipsania to wed his stepsister, Julia.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Ew. I mean, it's not as bad. If it was his biological sister, I mean, it would have been way worse. But at least it's his stepsister. At least, at least.
Not
It's
long
still wrong, though. It's still wrong.
after, Drusus, Tiberius's beloved brother, met his end as consequence of a fall from his horse. Augustus was all but guaranteed now to select Tiberius as his heir, as
Damn.
he continues promoting him both politically and militarily. But none of this seemed to matter to Tiberius anymore. All that he'd loved was gone, and his adulterous new wife could
Damn.
only amuse him for so long. The marriage between Julia and Tiberius was tumultuous, to say the least. Tiberius missed his true love. Julia was as loyal as a politician, and neither was fond of one another anymore. Hoping to escape the consequences of his wife's affairs and his grief over Vipsania, Tiberius thus looks to further busy himself with the sword. He would find great success in these endeavors, expanding Roman territory and gaining valuable experience. This, nor his second stint as consul, would nevertheless be enough to satisfy the troubled heir. He simply wanted an escape, a way out from the pressure, the scrutiny, and his increasingly toxic marriage that he so deeply regretted.
Honestly, you can relate to this because even in today's age, this happens. Not just men, women as well. This happens to people who experience terrible things in life, and they just want the pain to go away. They just want to focus their attention on something else, and that's a good thing. Yeah, you don't want to just focus on depression and your sadness. You want to like focus something else. You don't want the pain to affect you, but you also have to acknowledge it. You also have to accept it. If you don't, then you're gonna push it down further and further until your breaking point. And when your breaking point will happen, it will be ugly. So this is like if you, I suggest for whoever wants to go into history, I suggest like reading the books. No, just don't just watch the videos. The videos are like a summary. But if you read the book, then it would be like you're there, it would be so um it would feel like so real, it would feel super real. Like that's how I felt when I read about Alexander the Great, like it felt real to me, and I understood his emotions, I understood his personality. That's why I admire him so much. That's why I admire Justinian, Belisarius. That's why I admire Basil. I read about them. So I highly suggest, if you're interested in this kind of concept of like sadness, how to deal with depression, and you're interested in Tiberius specifically, you should read about him. Even though he's portrayed in a bad light by later contemporaries, especially senators, um, he's still an interesting figure. Maybe just as interesting like as Augustus, because Augustus was different of obviously than Tiberius. Tiberius was better in some things, was worse than some things, compared to Augustus, and vice versa. So yeah.
Upon returning to Rome in 6 BC, Tiberius announced his voluntary exile to Rhodes and complete withdrawal from public life.
So basically, he isolated himself. He went to solitary confinement.
It's said that Augustus, aging and fearing that he may lose his only heir, begs the man to stay. But Tiberius was sure of his decision to leave. He was only in his 30s by now.
Only his 30s? I thought he was like already in his 40s, 50s. Bro, okay. I mean, yeah, it makes sense because around that time, the psychology is like at its peak in terms of emotions that person can have.
A husband to the emperor's unfaithful daughter and ex-husband to the love of his life, a skilled military commander, a former consul of Rome,
2 times consuls,
and the assumed heir to the empire. Death and betrayal had thus far stained the path of his life after only 3 decades. Now in Rhodes, it seems that all of these negative events of his life began to display their consequences.
Yep.
Tiberius, never quite a social butterfly to begin with, was becoming even more introverted and angry. Repeated refusals by Augustus to allow him to return to Rome would only aggravate these festering traits. This would only last for so long, as the emperor's alternative heir in the form of Lucius, however, was alive. After his death in 2 AD, and with some persuasion from Livia, Tiberius was finally given the approval to travel back to Rome, though he would be required to live only as a private citizen.
Wait, so like she voluntarily isolated himself, but when she wanted to come back, he wasn't allowed to come back. He said, "Okay, you made the decision. You're gonna stay there for the rest of your life."
This came just in time for the death of Gaius in 4 AD, stripping Augustus of any other alternative to Tiberius as his inheritor.
Damn.
This led the emperor, whether with joy or great hesitation, to officially adopt his stepson, and Tiberius to, in turn, adopt his own nephew, Germanicus. A new line of succession was being solidified, and with that, Tiberius's political status and powers were restored and strengthened. In a matter of years, the heir, now in his 50s, would be elevated to equal standing with Augustus.
Wait, hold on. How old was Tiberius then? I mean, she was in his 50s, so pretty, old man at that point. I mean, not really that old, considering Caesar's age, but still,
Thus securing his position even when Augustus was to die. And when he did, Tiberius found no issue in being named the sole and rightful heir to the empire. Technically, by this point in time, Tiberius was still styled as princeps like his adopted father.
Yep.
There wasn't an official empire, and Tiberius took the games of his stepfather to an extreme.
Yeah, because like on paper it was still the republic, it was still the politia, it was still in Greek, it was still like the polity of the Roman state, it was still the republic, the respublica. The imperium came later, honestly. I mean, at that time even it was called imperium, but it wasn't it didn't mean empire in terms of modern sense,
Feigning complete reluctance to accept the official titles of princeps and Augustus. Whether he, unlike his predecessor, actually meant his hesitancy is unknown, as he very well may have been indifferent to the opportunity.
Yeah, based on what knowledge has presented so far, I could actually believe that. I could actually believe that he really, from the bottom of his heart, didn't really want those things, those titles. Those titles were just that, titles. They didn't mean anything to him. Because what's the point having so much power if you can't have the love of your life, if your family members died, all of the sad things that happened to you? How would power, accommodate that? How the power fill the gap of the void you have inside you?
Whether he saw it as a duty he must accept, or was just as clever and power-hungry as others before him, but the Senate reacted negatively to his apathy either way.
Yeah, most of the records we have about him is from the Senatus, aka from the Senate, and from Tacitus, which was a senator.
This marks the start of what would long be a tense relationship between Tiberius and his senators.
Not to mention that the Praetorian Guard being involved in. So far, the Praetorian Guard hasn't been mentioned at all.
Early years of Tiberius's rule were still the mildest. He at first seemed to be tame enough, and though reclusive, he thus far didn't portray himself as an angry or violent ruler.
Wait, he still lived for how many long years? He was in his 50s, around 14 AD, right? So like, basically like 20 more years? So he lived until his 70s? That's crazy, bro. Or even like his early 80s. That would
Some
be crazy.
accusations were thrown his way, such as his alleged involvement in the murder of Agrippa Postumus, the
Ooh.
only possible rival claimant Augustus had left behind, nothing was yet glaringly obvious. Tiberius was fair in much of his legislation, handled Rome's money impressively, and wasn't a warmonger nor weak tactically.
So she was basically like pretty decent emperor, you know? Like in terms of contemporary situation, she was pretty decent. He was an able military commander, if he still got that, you know, skill at that age. But at least he was great tactician, because you know, as you grow older, you gain more wisdom and, you know, more knowledge. Um, as I can see from what knowledge is presenting, he's a great administrator as well. The only, you know, caveat, the only disadvantage you can say about him is his diplomatic skills. Yeah.
Rebellions were quelled,
And that mainly revolves around his personality, being so shy, being so reluctant, being so, you know, his personality basically.
such as
So
with
yeah.
the aid of his adopted son Germanicus, and criminals were punished. But for some time, these things seemed to be typical of any leader.
Obviously,
It
yeah.
was only as the months and years went on, and more of those close to him died, that Tiberius and his public image began to darken, like the ocean fallen victim to the inky cloud of a cornered squid.
That's very poetic.
In 19 AD, after a recent string of remarkable military triumphs, Germanicus, the assumed heir to Tiberius and his adopted child, died.
Damn, imagine if
The immediate-
Germanicus lived.
Blame fell on a man by the name of Gnaeus Calpurnius Piso.
Also, nice name. Gnaeus Calpurnius Piso. That's a pretty interesting name. But what I want to say is that there are many figures in the Roman state along the years with the name Germanicus, you know, Germanicus Maximus, Germanus, you know, especially during late Roman Empire, many figures named Germanus, and very, you know, very, what you call it, very of those, like very many of those people named Germanus or Germanicus, uh, tried or were chosen as heirs, were chosen as rulers, but they refused, or they were killed before they became rulers. So it's kind of like sad to think about that none of them become emperors. I mean, sorry for going like on a different topic here, but still.
A governor of Syria and friends to Livia, Tiberius's mother. Piso was swiftly put on trial, accused of poisoning the would-be heir, during which he warned that if pushed, he could implicate the princeps himself in the presumed murder.
Oh?
What would actually happen would be Piso taking his own life, but nevertheless,
Or someone took his own life and made it seem that he took his own life. Who knows?
the rumor of Tiberius's involvement hadn't gone unnoticed, and neither did the growing change in the emperor's temperament. This shift would only be exacerbated when, in 23 AD, Drusus, Tiberius's biological son and alternate heir, met his own suspicious demise. This was
What?
the point of no return for the emperor as a brooding solitary.
Damn.
He was now heirless, as anyone could see, and growing tired of his role as princeps. Lucius Aelius Seianus, who had long served as Praetorian prefect and shared much responsibility with Tiberius over the prior decades, became the emperor's trusted substitute. With
Seianus also was a kingmaker, basically.
over
Oh, man.
6,000 Praetorian Guard troops at his dispense within the walls of Rome, Seianus became the most powerful man in the city as Tiberius. At his
Even more powerful than Tiberius himself.
wits
Like Tiberius. Tiberius, I would say, he just like was only the jure ruler. De facto ruler at that point was Seianus. I mean, I do know about Seianus a little bit, because I did study the Praetorian Guard when I read about it in an article. But like still, I think Seianus at this point was even more powerful than Tiberius.
end with life in Augustus's shoes withdrew to his imperial villa in Capri. Now, with Rome under the watchful eye of both Sejanus and Tiberius's ever overbearing mother, the princeps believed that he could rest easy, knowing that his empire was safe and he was securely isolated on his little island, away from the unrest that public life in Rome had always brought him. But Tiberius had always been a magnet for death and subsequent misfortune, and fleeing the capital wasn't going to change that. In 29 AD, Livia died, leaving Rome solely in the hands of Sejanus, a treacherous turn of events.
Interesting.
Tiberius, still isolated in his villa, was spared witness to the cleansing of Rome of all those who opposed Sejanus, including 3 surviving members of Germanicus's family.
Whoa, I want to read those
including
names.
3 surviving members.
Agrippina the Elder, okay, Drusus Julius Caesar, and Nero Julius Caesar. What the heck?
Of Germanicus's family. The emperor was in fact so unwitting to the schemes of his trusted ally that he allowed Sejanus to serve as consul alongside him in 31 AD, whilst his secret lover, Livilla, Tiberius's niece, joined his ploy. Sejanus was determined to weasel his way into the line of succession now that Tiberius's obvious heirs were deceased, with the aid of the Julians. One way or another, however, the princeps soon became aware of Sejanus's conspiratorial spirit, and with the help of a Naevius Sutorius Macro, managed to send a letter directly to the Senate. A meeting was thus convened, and with Sejanus in attendance, the Senate read aloud the message, chastising his former ally and demanding his killing without hesitation.
Damn.
Dumbfounded by the sudden withdrawal of support by Tiberius, the Senate was caught off guard, but nevertheless called for an immediate trial. Sejanus and multiple allies of his were predictably found guilty, and thus executed as Tiberius had insisted.
Damn.
The following months would see additional family, friends, and colleagues of the disgraced commander meet similar fates, as Tiberius, now growing old and lacking the tameness he once had, aims to punish any and everyone who may have even considered joining the side of Sejanus. While there had been good reason to punish Sejanus himself in the least, it seems that the domino of trials and executions his treason brought on had a further negative impact on Tiberius's public image. His departure from Rome and growing harshness as the years went on had already begun to corrode his reputation, but these events only proved the points of his critics.
Interesting.
The increasingly unstable mind of the emperor was nevertheless unfazed by such judgments.
You know, now that you mentioned that, it reminds me of Justin II, of how, his his mind went all crazy by all of the stuff that was going on around the empire and inside the empire. So I get it honestly. And another thing I want to mention, historians tend to, especially contemporary historians, tend to depict a ruler's ability to rule more on, public image than accomplishments, because it doesn't matter if he's a good administrator, doesn't matter if he's a good diplomat, doesn't matter if he's a good military commander. The current, how do I say this? The emperor they are depicting, they are going to be depicted in a bad light if their public image is bad, obviously. Like, I could give you some examples. For example, look, Tiberius, and then you can look Tiberius, for example, and then you can look at, let's say, even Caligula or Nero. Honestly, they were not that decent of emperors, but they were not bad emperors either as well. Then we also have Justin II. Like, before he went crazy, he was still pretty competent, but he was not loved by the public. Then we have Constantine IV. Then we have Constantine V. Then we have Michael the First. Then we have Basil the Second, even like a great emperor. So like that. It depends on the public image, honestly, by how you're depicted in contemporary times.
And his mistrust and overall gloomy view in the world and his life had already done damage enough. He was old, paranoid, depressed, and unmotivated to do much at all.
Interesting.
Even the unanswered question of who would stand as Tiberius's official heir seemed as though it would remain undecided. After Sejanus's purging of Germanicus's family, there were few options left, and yet Tiberius scarcely cared enough to decide between them. Still, there were two obvious choices.
Okay.
Tiberius Gemellus, the teenage son of...
I think I heard about him. I may be wrong though. Tiberius Gemellus. Yeah, the grandson of Tiberius.
The princeps, and Gaius Caesar, the only living son of Germanicus.
Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't know that they were competing for the throne. Okay.
Considering age and readiness, the latter of the men seems the only viable option for the idle emperor, and thus Tiberius finally chose, though lazily. "I am nursing a viper in Rome's bosom," he remarked.
What?
Tiberius made the effort to elevate Caligula, as Gaius Caesar was known, to the position of quaestor, but little else was done to secure his place as the intended successor to the Principate. This
to the Principate, yeah. And for that to happen, I think he needed to formally adopt him as his own son. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's like how it was done during the early imperial era, you know?
was an unfortunate decision on the part of the emperor, who consequently forced Caligula to secure his status on his own. The exact details of what occurred next are debated by historians of the time, but generally, the story goes as follows.
Okay.
In March of 37 AD, the 77-year-old
Almost 80-year-old. Oh my gosh, this guy lived so long.
Tiberius became ill and fell into a coma. After evaluating his incapacitated, deteriorating body, the emperor's physicians declared that Tiberius had met his end. This led to Caligula, the only known option as heir, being called upon to take up the succession. With the support of the Praetorian Guard, the new Augustus accepted his role, and the transition of power seemed as though it would be as smooth as ever, until Tiberius woke up.
What?
Some say that
Imagine dying and then coming back from the dead to resecure. Oh my gosh. Dude, imagine if you're a Byzantophile. Imagine Andronicus II, he dies in the, let's say he dies in the civil war with his grandson Andronicus III. And after Andronicus III is crowned emperor, he suddenly revives. And he takes the crown back and then literally burns the empire, and the empire ends like in the 1300s.
upon regaining consciousness, the princeps asked for something to eat, and Caligula refused to allow him to be fed.
What?
Others say that while nearly all who had already accepted Caligula as the new head of Rome spiraled into panic, Macro, the commander of the Praetorian Guard and former ally to Tiberius, smothered the true ruler to death with the emperor's own bedclothes. Whether Caligula was involved in such a plot or not is furthermore contested. Either way, Tiberius would receive no second chance at life. Now, he was truly dead. And with his passing came the oh-so-telling chance through the streets of Rome. To the Tiber with Tiberius.
What
Caligula, now confirmed as the true successor to the Roman Empire, immediately works to ensure his place would remain unchallenged. When it was revealed that Tiberius had chosen both Gemellus and Caligula as his co-heirs in his will, the latter stripped the will of any value.
Interesting.
It was
Yeah,
void, and
makes
Tiberius
sense. Makes sense. If you want to secure your legitimacy and your influence, of course you'll do that. Honestly, I would do that too if I was emperor.
Tiberius's wishes mattered now as much as faithfulness had to Julia. But it's worthwhile to remember what the second emperor of Rome had said about his successor. Caligula was a viper. The new princeps was not just any Roman noble. Born August 31st, 12 AD, Gaius Julius Caesar was the son of Germanicus and Agrippina the Elder, and the great-grandson of the defamed Mark Antony. The renowned Agrippa was his maternal grandfather.
Interesting.
The sobriquet
I didn't know
Caligula
that.
came from his early childhood, when Germanicus would take the toddler Gaius on campaigns in Germania, dressing him up like a little soldier and earning the child the name Little Boots. After Germanicus's death in 19 AD, Caligula grew up in multiple houses, being tossed between his mother's, his great-grandmother's, and his grandmother's. The soon-to-be heir would eventually make his way to Capri under the suspicious eye of Tiberius. Neither liked each other very well, and Caligula is rumored to have conspired to assassinate Tiberius years before the emperor's actual end. But Tiberius is believed to have been both aware and indifferent to this rumor. When his life did come to an end, whether at the hands of Caligula or not, Little Boots was waiting in the wings. He was already a cold and calculated man with a deep resentment towards those who had targeted his deceased family members. But he was smart, as many before him had been.
Interesting.
Much like the first Augustus, he was a magnificent actor. It was once said of him, "Never was there a better servant or a worse master." Words spoken of him while in service of Tiberius. All the while, the young man was planning to murder his master. Caligula was intelligent, politically savvy, and rather manipulative in character. And according to some...
So basically he was like the combination of Augustus and Tiberius. That's what I'm getting at, you know?
He was utterly insane. Thus, the reign of the Viper commenced.
Okay. Now it looks like super cinematic. It looks like a movie now. Honestly, I want to check it out if I can find the reign of okay, there's the reign of Nero. But what's the reign of Caligula? Okay, there's no reign of Caligula, it seems. We can find it somewhere else in another video, I guess. So yeah. But anyways, thank you so much, Knowledge, for for this amazing work. Truly a very awesome work indeed. And yeah, this was it. Why was Tiberius forced to be an emperor? History of the Roman Empire, 14 AD, 37 AD. So I hope you guys liked it. I certainly did. And yeah, can't wait for the next video on this channel. And also the next following this video is going to be a video from Ancient Side, most likely. I don't know which video. I'm gonna see which one I like, but leave that for the off-camera me. So yeah. Anyways, my name is Jackie. I hope you guys liked it, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.